welcome. Today we're going to be talking with Maurice Baynett, and he's going to be sharing really practical, insightful ways to make your house more comfortable to live in and cheaper to run. Welcome, Maurice.
Thanks, Maureen. Lovely to be here.
Now, I always start the show by asking our guests for something quirky or interesting about them. So what would you like to share with us today?
I can probably share two things that not many people would know. The first one is that about almost 20 years ago, I did, Lynn, my wife and I, we did actually physically build our kids' school, which is a Montessori school. So our kids went through Montessori, and anyway, quirk of coming here where we live now was that we actually took time out and physically built the school. And then subsequently I built the second building there myself. So never built anything before.
That's amazing. Is it still there?
Oh, yeah, it's booming. Yeah, it's going great. They've built more things, since then. I think there's about 4 or 5 buildings there now. Yeah.
Wow,
yeah, it's going
that's
great.
amazing.
Yeah.
Now today we are going to be talking about buildings, but not necessarily schools. We're going to be talking about people's homes. And what got me interested in talking to you is a while back you came to my home with Janol Victorian and made just a few simple changes, which really helped drop my gas bill and keep it warmer. So I really want to explore that with you today.
Yeah, Maureen. So it's really what got EcoMaster going, was actually doing that kind of thing for our own home to begin with, because when we came to where we live out in the countryside and at 500 metres of elevation, just outside of Melbourne. And having lived in Sydney, when we came here, we were just amazed at how cold it was, so bit funny really. But anyway, so the house, beautiful house, how good a house looks, and that has very little to do with how well it actually performs. So so when we came here, we were just amazed at how badly this house performed. We were freezing cold in wintertime and reasonably warm in the summer. So anyway, that's what got us along the journey. And, and we've discovered a lot of things that can easily be done to homes to make them so much warmer in winter and so much cooler in summer. I mean, it's the other side of the coin. So you treat one, you treat the other.
Yeah. And so within that, so the story is it was very practical. And actually, I won't argue with you, because even though, people often equate Melbourne to Sydney, in terms of weather, we're very different. And it does get much colder here. And so can you tell us about, say, some practical ways, like, 2 or 3 ways that you can practically implement to make your house warmer no matter where you are?
Yep. So there's some really simple things. Just broadly, before we jump into some actual things that you can do, the first thing is to actually keep the weather outside. Keep it out of your house. And that really comes down to just draft proofing your home. When people come from colder climates like Northern Europe or Canada, they're just amazed at how drafty our homes are, And Maureen, you'll know, your Victorian home is, the old Victorians were really, really drafty. So that's the first port of call is that. And then after that, fixing up the insulation is the next one. But I can see in your background, Maureen, you've got a really lovely marble mantelpiece. That's it. Over your fireplace, right?
Yes.
Yep. And so in a lot of places, and especially old Victorians like that, but even other homes, there's 1 or more fireplaces, right? In the old Edwardians and Victorians, there's usually 3 or 4 fireplaces. And they are just massive holes in your home, and, and the chimney, they're made to draw air out of your home, and they do, right? So that's your heating going up there, right?
Yeah.
So that's really a most obvious place. If you've got a fireplace, it's the most obvious thing to treat first.
Yeah. So what would you do to the fireplace? I find that really interesting that it's, you know, it's made to draw, you know, the air up. Well, of course it is. Or we'd all be, you know, we'd all die. So that's really interesting. So what practical thing could someone do if they do have fireplaces, for instance, that they're not, you know, when they're not using them?
Yep. Look, the thing is, don't use them for fires. You know, it's like a fire it might look nice, but it's not really a heating thing for your home. So provided that you've got a fireplace that you're not using for fires, we've got a device that we call, imaginatively, the chimney draft stopper. And that actually, you trim it to size and you put it up through your fireplace, and it actually 100% blocks off your chimney, you know. So you don't see it; it's hidden, but it does the job for not very much.
Yeah.
You know?
Because there must have been a government initiative where someone came and said we're going to put the draft stoppers up, but they put them up and they just fell down again. So I think they had a bit of a one size fits all, and then it wasn't right for my chimneys, and I just thought it was a waste of time and money.
Yep, and I give myself credit for stopping that, I think, because I hounded them with pictures of all these. They were chimney balloons, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, of course, what does a balloon do? It deflates, you know. And the other thing was that they were always the wrong shape, you know, and they never actually sealed a single chimney, in my view. Anyway, there we go. That was stopped.
Yeah. And great. So there's the chimney draft stopper. And what about, you mentioned at the very beginning, other drafts? So like if you fix them for us, but there's several doors leading outside where if you stood close enough, you could just feel the draft underneath. So what should you do that's really practical for that?
Yep. So there are lots of things to do. There's basically the perimeter and the underside of doors, and if you've got double doors, then there's the join between the doors as well. So you're quite right, Maureen. So external doors are a great source of unwanted draft. We've got loads of really good quality door seals that a lot of which we make ourselves on the ecomasterstore.com.au. So the thing is to get things that actually work. Okay, you can go to the hardware store and you can get weather stripping, and sometimes that works, and but often it doesn't. So the thing is, like horses for courses, and the really important thing is often is installing the things, so that they work properly.
Yeah.
So we've gone to a lot of trouble to make a lot of videos about how to do that. So all our components have got videos about how to install them properly. And the other thing is,
just on that though, so there sounds like there's two options there. I could go to ecomasterstore.com.au and go, look, it's clear that I need these things to support around the doors to stop the drafts. And then there's videos to install it if I want to do it myself. Can you guys just, because I'm like, can you do it for me sort of person? Can you guys help and do that for people? Or you're more saying, no, you should be doing it yourself?
So we don't install any longer. We did used to install, but our ex-installers are still installing, so we can refer you to someone that can do that for you. Or you can always get just a handyman to do it. Provided they watch our videos, I'm sure that they can do it easy peasy.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. So is there any other way that you can make your home warmer or cooler? What came up for me, we talked about the external doors, but it sounds like the doors between rooms would be important as well.
Yes, so zoning can be important. So it comes down to what kind of heating system you've got and whether it's zonable, whether you've got room heating or whole of house heating. If you can possibly zone out places of your home where you're not using them and don't heat them or cool them, then you're going to be saving the energy from doing that, right? And the rest of your home's going to be more comfortable. So that's a good reason for draft-proofing internal doors. So typically you can do bathroom, a toilet, laundry, internal doors for starters. But most homes you can do that with. But also, if you've got a really big home, then you can zone out other rooms, provided, of course, that it's safe to turn the heating off if it's a whole of home heating system.
Yeah. So I've got gas underfloor heating. It just has a little vent. Is that what you mean by just turning it off? Just close the vent so that it goes somewhere else, or is that not what you mean?
It is what I mean, Maureen. But the thing is this: there's two kinds of gas ducted heating systems. There are ones that are not inherently zonable. It's probably what you've got there. And there are other ones which are inherently zonable, and they'll have a control that tells you, which zones you want to heat and which ones you don't.
Okay.
If you don't have that control, then you've got a thing. And so in that case, you have to be careful about how many of these outlets you close off, okay?
Yeah.
Because when you do that, you create more back pressure in the system, and you might actually blow ducting apart.
I think I'd leave it. So we've talked about the outside doors. We've talked about zoning. Is there anything else that you can do to keep your house warmer or cooler?
There's two more things to keep the weather out.
Yep.
One is the next biggest hole after your chimneys are your exhaust fans. So they're easy peasy. There's a thing called a draft stopper for the exhaust fans. So they just pop onto the exhaust fans and seal those when they're not being used. And the other thing that's easy to do is gap filling. Okay, and for this we have a great product called Ultra Clear, because it's easy to cork on and it flows nicely. It goes on white and it dries clear, as the name would suggest. So corking is really important, particularly in the older places like the Victorians and that, where you've got great big gaps under your skirting boards and you've got air vents and, so there's lots of places that you can cork with Ultra Clear, and that, is going to serve your place up a lot better again.
Yeah. So give me a practical example, because I'm not where I can cork things up. So we've covered the doors, we've covered the chimney, we've covered the fans.
Yep.
Where would you say, is it just like where you go, oh, that looks like it's, it's got a hole in it or something, or there's air getting through?
Let's just say that you've got a polished floor.
Yeah.
Which is or a tiled floor, and if you look around the perimeter of your floor, there's skirting boards that are fixed to the wall. And what happens over time? The floor sinks a little bit.
Yeah.
And you end up with great big gaps under your skirting boards, where the airflow happens to under your house.
Yeah. Oh, great.
So that's a great place to start corking, and it's pretty easy to do. You do have to get on your hands and knees, but get some knee pads or something, and just cork around there. So that's pretty easy. The other thing that's very often the case with the older places is wall vents up, along the external walls, and provided that you don't have a gas heater or an open gas fire, then it's safe to cork those up as well.
Awesome. So in terms of, what sort of effect these ways have on your gas or electricity bills?
So typically, certainly in an older home, you can expect to save about 50% on your heating, just by doing these measures, just by undertaking these measures.
Wow.
Okay, so it's not going to cost that much to do, and you're going to save more than the cost in the first year, and then you'll save it over and over and over and over, and it actually helps in the summertime too.
Yeah, exactly. So that was keeping the weather out. So that's a key thing. What else do we need to look at?
So the other thing to look at are the easily achievable insulations. So typically that is in the ceiling and under the floor. Now I know I can tell, Maureen, that you're not likely to get under the floor, but you know, but a lot of people can, right? Yes. So it's actually not that difficult. But the thing is about having enough insulation in your ceiling. So just pop your head through the manhole and take a look. What you're hoping to find is about 220 centimetres, about 200 millimetres. So that's about 2/3 of an old-time ruler thickness of insulation. Yeah. If you don't find that, it's going to make a difference when you top it up. Okay? Yeah. Yep.
So the houses have, because I remember the story when I was little, going back a few years, Maurice, my son was friends with the boy down the road, and the parents were doing insulation in the house, and they had the old pink bats. And my brother James spent the day there helping with the pink bats, and then he came up in all these, like he was allergic to the nth degree. So I'm presuming insulation has changed over the years from 45 years ago.
Well, the answer is yes and no. So that stuff is still available and amongst the cheapest around. Okay, so you get what you pay for mostly. So there's two things about the insulation that you described. It's inexpensive, it's amazingly irritating, and over time it does collapse, okay, because it's made up of tiny little bits of glass, and they expand and contract and they break, okay, and once enough break, the bat is no longer the same height and it collapses under its weight. So what insulation value do you get? It's variable over time, okay? So, yep, it's a terrible thing to use. But once you've done it once, you'll never do it again, never use that again. So it has improved. Now there's polyester insulation, there's polyester bats that you can use, and they are, it's the same polyester that you would find in your pillow, so it's like non-allergenic. It's, it's a beautiful product to use.
Yeah.
But it's more expensive.
But it's expensive, but it sounds like it's better quality.
Oh, it is, and it lasts for such a long time. When your house gets knocked down, you'll be able to pull these bats out and use them again somewhere else, Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So do you sell them or on your EcoMaster store as well?
Yes, we do. Yep. We sell a load of draft proofing stuff, and we also sell insulation. So we're actually the go-to place for underfloor insulation, but we have ceiling bats as well.
Yeah. And so you said there were three things. There was keep the weather out. There was the insulation. And what's the third thing?
No, they were the main things. Keep the weather out, and then ceiling and underfloor insulation. So underfloor insulation is sometimes not thought about as a good thing for keeping the warmth in and that, but it does a couple of things, right? So it does reduce energy loss because it's insulation, but mostly the difference that it makes is it changes the temperature of the floor from that of outside to that of inside. Okay, because you know how uncomfortable a cold floor is, right? Yeah. So putting the insulation under the floor actually makes the floor much more comfortable to be on, and so you're less likely to need to heat, over shoulder periods, and when you do heat, you're likely to put the thermostat down because you're just naturally more comfortable because your feet are warm.
Right. And because I think that's amazing, because I wouldn't have thought of that. Because you think, hot air rises and, escapes from above. But I never thought of the fact that you've got to really be mindful of the floors as well.
Yeah, well, that's right. So we've insulated thousands of floors, and we continue to to promote DIY underfloor. And you know how many people have come back to us and said, well, that didn't work? Zero. But never happened. Never happened.
Yeah. So it sounds like actually putting the effort to make some changes. It's probably good to do during lockdown as well. You're at home.
That's right. A lot of people are taking advantage of lockdown because deliveries can still happen, right? So they're taking advantage of lockdown to do all these kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah. And how often would you have to do them again? So you talked about the insulation in your roof. You probably wouldn't need to do it, for a long, long time, especially if you've got the quality insulation. What about the things you've mentioned so far? How often would you have to, do a top up or redo something?
Yeah, no, if you follow our instructions, that's it. Once. Our view is, use the right stuff, use the right installation procedure, and do it once. Yeah, it's good forever. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. Now, the other thing that, so we touched on electricity and gas. Just, do you know, what do people use mostly? Or is it a real mix for their heating at the moment?
So it is a mix. Look, it is a mix of electricity and gas, and it tends to, it changes from place to place depending on what energy source is available. By and large, heating is more often done with gas. But, gas is getting more expensive. The more gas we make, the more we ship overseas, the more expensive it gets here. So a lot of people are thinking about getting off gas, so particularly when their gas system maybe has a failure and they're up for a new furnace, then more and more people are thinking about, well, do I really want to continue with gas?
Yeah. And so what are your thoughts? Because growing up, I was always told that it was, gas was better to use than electricity. And I thought it was cheaper, and so where are we now?
So it was cheaper, right? But now actually it's no longer cheaper. And it's because of this, because gas has got a bit more expensive. It's actually made some electrical heating technology cheaper to run than gas. And you can see up here, right? There. That is a really efficient and inexpensive split system. So it's, it cools in the summer, it heats in the winter. It's 500% efficient. It's 5 times more efficient than an old electric heater, a blow heater or an oil column heater. It's 5 times more efficient than that, and that makes it actually cheaper heating than gas.
Yeah. Right, that's amazing. What about, I haven't got one here, those ones that are, they're about $170, and they're like, they're an electric, I think they're electric. Yeah, I'll plug them in, they're electric, and they're like a glass. They're really thin. They're the latest thing at the moment. What do you think of those?
I think we're talking about an infrared heater.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, they can be really effective, particularly in a small space like a study.
Yeah.
Okay. And the beauty of those is that they actually heat you rather than the air. So it's a low frequency infrared. Yeah. So it is an electric element, but they're often of modest electricity consumption. And so it's provided that they're near you and in a small space like a study is ideal for that.
Yeah. What do you mean they heat you and not the air? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So most heaters, including the one behind me, heat air. Okay. So electric blow heater, column heater, even hydronic heating, the gas heating that you've got coming out of the floor, they all heat air. And that's okay because, we exist in air. So that's, it's not a bad process. but low frequency infrared, it's like the sun. Okay, so it's like putting your face in a warm winter sun. You can feel the warmth from the radiation of the sun, and so that really these infrared panels do the same thing as that. So they just transfer the heat by radiation. So it's like standing in the sun kind of
Okay,
thing.
great. So what if people have gone, right, gas is getting more expensive, and I want to get off it? What should they look at?
So there's a couple of things, right? To get off gas, usually there's two things. So one is how to heat and possibly cool your home. And, high efficiency split systems are the way to go. Yes, you might have to install a few. Also bear in mind that there are things called multi-head systems. So one external compressor with multiple heads like this, good for bedrooms where you got maybe 3 bedrooms. So that they're the go-to heating and cooling devices because they're so amazingly efficient. And if you've just got heating, then now suddenly you're going to have cooling capacity as well.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing to be thinking about if you're getting off gas is you've probably got gas hot water heating, right? So if you've got that, then you'll need an electric system to replace that. And the go-to technology for that currently is also a heat pump system. Okay. So works similar to that, except instead of transferring the heat to the air, it transfers it to the water in the tank. Right. Again, really, really efficient.
Yeah. And it sounds like with more energy efficiency and renewable energy, that these things are real options.
Yeah, they are. Like there's always an outlay to get more efficiency, but if you're at that outlay point anyway, then it's a good option to consider.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, is when you're all electric, you can think about other ways to make electricity cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like a bit of a step process, like, deciding that you want to be more energy efficient, get off gas, and then work through that. And then when you've done that, it's like, well, okay, well, there's actually different options to get the actual energy.
Yep, exactly. Look, one of the go-to places is energymadeeasy.gov.au.
Yeah.
Go there. If you're in Western Australia, don't go there because it's frustrating. But everywhere else, you can go there and it's going to help you get a better deal on your electricity.
Yeah, great.
There are other ways as well. We might be needing to talk about that at another time because it's quite an involved conversation as well.
There you go. It's on the screen now, energymadeeasy.gov.au. So obviously it's an independent government site, which will give you great recommendations. And then just quickly, we had one person ask about in a tropical climate, any tips? I know we haven't got much time left, but is it the same sort of philosophy? Keeping the weather out, etc.?
If you're having refrigerated cooling, if you're having, a cooling system, then yes, it's the same philosophy. That's right. Keep your cooling inside, insulate your building.
Yeah.
If you're really in the tropics where you've got louvered windows and the theory is just let the weather blow through your home, then that's a different thing.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. So thank you so much today, Maurice. So if people would like to learn more or buy some of these great options you've suggested today, what should they do?
Okay. So the go-to place is the ecomasterstore.com.au.
Yep.
If they'd like to email us, sales@ecomaster.com.au, and also find our YouTube channel, the EcoMaster Australia YouTube channel. There's hundreds of videos of great information. It's like as much as we can share, we do.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that where you're not just left in the dark. You know, you bought a product and it's not like IKEA where you've got no instructions. There's
Yes.
loads and loads of instructions to support you to make your home, and especially in these difficult times, somewhere really pleasurable to live.
Yep.
Excellent. Thanks, Maurice. So if anyone's interested, the place to go is ecomasterstore.com.au, or if you want to email Maurice directly or the sales team, it's sales@ecomaster.com.au. Thanks, Maurice. It was an absolute pleasure talking with you today.
Thanks, Maureen. Pleasure was mine.
So if you'd like to see more interviews with amazing business owners sharing extraordinary insights, click subscribe, then click the bell button, then click all, and we'll notify you.